Good morning, and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View this morning. Last night, something great happened, and it was this. Yes, we hit 18,088. We hit 1888, and we're currently sitting on 18,888. It's absolutely fantastic. And all the hope that when people do subscribe to the channel is that we maybe put out content and we'll have discussions that maybe resonate with you as a Celtic fan. And that's all that I try to do on this channel. I don't try to be anything else. I just try to be myself. I'm not doing this to try and achieve anything else or another agenda. You've got to remember, it's been 14 years now since I put up my very first Celtic video. 14 years. 14 years ago when Neil Lennon walked through the doors of Celtic Park. If you don't believe me, go and check out the very first video on the homepage of the channel. Anyway, let's get into some Celtic news. It's a long time ago since Callum McGregor put on the Celtic shirt for the first time in the first team. When you look back at the early pictures of Callum McGregor and the likes of Kieran Tierney as ball boys at the side of Celtic Park on some fantastic Champions League nights. Callum looking on to the likes of Nakamura, scoring a fantastic free kick against Manchester United. And at the time, Manchester United weren't a half-bad team, and they still had that legendary manager, Mr. Alex Ferguson. Yes, how Man United have fallen from grace since then. But Celtic have been on a roller coaster of winning trophy after trophy and having success. And all that is down to, and let's face it, we can't deny it, is the board and the way that the company has been run. The club isn't a company, is it? We don't have company and club. It's just the club. It's all the one thing with us. We don't have a different company that owns us, do we? I couldn't help that one this morning. But anyway, it has been a long time coming. And I think that Callum McGregor looks back over what he's achieved as a Celtic player, and he said it's a new beginning this year. It is a new beginning, and he's feeling very positive about going into the Champions League, which is good because a lot of the fans are feeling positive with the new format. Callum McGregor said it's fresh, it's new. Everyone will be playing in it for the first time. Says, obviously, I think your seeding helps when it comes to pot 3, and we're playing teams of a rougher kind of a marker, but you should think that we've all got to get off to a good start. And we're playing at home, so that kind of points to a positive beginning for us at Celtic. On the night, we have to do it right. We have to make sure we maximise that. 10 years ago, McGregor took to the pitch for his debut in the Champions League against Reykjavik, Champions League qualifier. And the article goes on to say the rest is history. The rest is history. But I think Callum will know the ups and downs that we've had in the previous version of the Champions League. And now it is now down to this new format. I think that it can only be, let's just take every game as it comes. And let's get off to a really positive start. And let's make as much bloody noise as we can at Celtic Park on Wednesday night. Let's give this Slovakian team, let's give Bratislava team and the 600 fans that are travelling to Celtic a night to remember. And like they say, Brendan Rodgers said, this is our paradise. Let's make it hell for them. Let's make it hell. And on that note, we really need to get off to a cracking start. When you look at all the games that are coming up, we've got a real good chance. We've got a real good chance this year. And I just hope that the manager and the players take that chance and grab it by the hands of the neck and get as many points as we can. A lot of people are saying that they want to be at least 10 points. I think when we look at how many points we've amassed previously, it is achievable this year with the teams that we're playing. But then again, I said that last year. And it's a big moment for another Scottish player. It is a big moment for another Scottish player. Another homebred Celtic fan. Another guy that grew up kicking the ball about the streets and then went on to be a lifeguard. Only 4 years ago, he was a lifeguard in a swimming pool. But young Luke He's not so. He is young. He's only 26. That's young compared to a lot of us that watch this channel. So let's just keep calling him young Luke. He said that Celtic are not going to be a tourist. They're not, they're not going to be a tourist going into this Champions League. They're not there to just make up the numbers, which is good. Which is good. And I think if Celtic get off to a flyer, and if we play the way that we've been playing, and okay, people will say, look, the game against Hearts wasn't a great game. You've got to give Stevie Naismith and his team some credit for sitting with 5 at the back and playing really defensive for 45 minutes and trying to make sure they had one objective, and that was to make sure that Celtic didn't score. They didn't even try and get out of the park. So let's not. We're going to talk about Stevie Naismith in that game in a minute and how it may affect the game on Wednesday night. But young Luke says he's going to relish being at the big stage. This is where every player dreams about. Every player, every guy that ties his laces on his boots thinks, will I ever be good enough to get into a team that will play in the Champions League? Never mind international football. International football is all good and it's fantastic as a player. But the real big tournament in domestic football is the Champions League. And young Luke on Wednesday will be living his dream. He will be living his dream. And I just hope that he comes on the park and scores like he did at the weekend. He says after coming through the ranks at Ayr United and then to Dundee, there's no one at the club that will be more happier to be just involved. He says Celtic have suffered so much in the Champions League disappointment. And he only mentioned that because it was put to him by the press. And the media have got this thing about the disappointment over the years. And yes, we can look back in history and we can look back at the disappointments. At a quote that's now taverniered. It isn't a Celtic quote. It is a fully fledged Seth Cloney and Rangers quote, disappointed. And at least we've not got the disappointment that they have. You've got to remember it was only a few years ago that they were the worst team ever to have been in the Champions League. Yes, the amount of goals against. Oh, man. It's absolutely fantastic. Celtic want to push on this year, and we want to try and achieve something that we've never achieved for a long, long time, and that's try and get at least a minimum of 3 home wins in the Champions League. We do need to turn Celtic Park back into a fortress, and I think that this could be the start of a new dawn. We've brought in players of calibre that are more expensive than we've paid in a long time, and ever, in fact. And I think that it is the way forward. Last night, we went through the statement of accounts from the Celtic PLC, and it read that we had £77 million in the bank, and people were saying, well, what happened to the $100 million that everyone said we were going to have? We haven't received any money from the Champions League this season as yet. When we do receive that 50 million, that will take us over the 100 million mark in the bank. Yes, that is when we'll hit the 100 million in the bank. So next year's accounts will be the ones to look out for, because we hadn't had that big amount of money. We did get a good amount of money from the Champions last year, but this year it's even more. And then it's going to be interesting to look into the accounts once you get them released from Companies House to see exactly how much Celtic made on merchandise. They didn't give that away in the chairman's statement. Remember, the information that was given out last night was only the chairman's statement. And the chairman's statement is basically put out just before so the real accounts will be lodged with Companies House this morning and be open for the public to go and have a nosy at. And I'm sure a lot of very knowledgeable Celtic fans will do that and go through the accounts with a fine tooth comb to see how much money exactly Celtic made. You remember the previous season, we made 32 million from merchandise sales. And last year we pumped out even more merchandise than ever. And we didn't get it stolen like the Union Bears. Celtic merchandise this season, well, we all know what's happened this season with the numerous strips that have been released and the brand new Adidas merch. And yes, I have purchased some myself, and I'm not going to say I'm not going to purchase it, because I am. I think that as much as I can bemoan the board about the lack of activity sometimes and the speed of the activity, I think that the board could get its finger out a lot quicker than what it does. They have been very prudent, and they do run the club in a fantastic way. So hats off to the club for that. And may long it continue, because everything, as far as Celtic are concerned, and as far as I'm concerned, they're going in the right direction. Molly grumble just now is why I didn't have the hotel built. But yes, you have to look after the football side of things first. And the hotel, it's still in the background, and I think that will get approved. Well, it has been approved by the planning department. It just all depends when Celtic get the money. When you've got teams spending 100 million on budgets in the Champions League, obviously Celtic are going to struggle a bit. But Brendan Rodgers and his new style of play with Celtic, and the more defensive, and hopefully in this competition we'll have a real good go this year. We're not playing as many top teams, and we're not going to get, as some opponents like to say, battered everywhere we go. I think it's a bit of a level playing field. Anyway, one manager, that was talking about the Celtic manager and talking about the class. And sometimes we forget about this, about Brendan Rodgers. And we can all talk about his tactics. We can all talk about the way that he speaks to the press. And some people will say that he's just a mouthpiece for the board. But he's a human being. And as a human being, he's actually a fantastic guy. And Stephen Naismith has been talking about him and talking about the conversations. Although he didn't give away too much information, he's not going to say exactly what he told Stephen Naismith at the weekend. And as much as we dislike him as being a Hearts manager and the person that he is, a little current bun, he did turn around and he said, look, we've got experienced managers, and as much as you're a rival to them, and as much as you're trying to get one over each other, they've got time for you. That's the biggest thing that I've ever seen over the last year. Every manager I've come up against at their time is willing to answer any questions, and as a young manager, that's so valuable. It was a nice moment with Brendan, and everybody in the league this year is going to want to try and beat Brendan, but he's been fantastic with me. He's hoping that my fortunes turn when we face St Mirren away from home this weekend. Although Celtic do play in the Champions League, I don't want Brendan to give too much advice to any European manager, because I want Brendan to come out on tops. We'll be doing a live at 8 p.m. Celtic part-time tonight, so make sure that you do join us for that. I think that Brendan's got a tough decision to make this week, and it's who does he start? Who does he start? I think personally he'll go with the same team that started at the weekend, but there's going to be players that have been brought in that were thinking maybe they were actually brought in for Champions League games. Maybe Brendan Rodgers will surprise us with his lineup, because let's face it, we've still not seen Trusty or Alex Valley, two players that were brought in to make the playing squad better and the first team better, but we've yet to see them yet. Is that due to the fact that they were in the door late in the transfer window? Brendan Rodgers spoke about it during the summer. He wanted his players in the early so that he could get the tactics lined up, he can get the positional play lined up. He spoke about it about Arne Engels not being in the right positions during game, but that will come with time. It's something that we need to work on with the player. That's the only downside of bringing people in late into the transfer window, but it doesn't matter now because the window's closed and it's all about that song. And I'm not going to sing it. That song, when it rings out in Celtic Park on Wednesday night, will drive the crowd absolutely berserk. And the noise from the boys will be unbelievable. And fans all around the world will be left watching Celtic TV, hoping it doesn't crash. And on that note, have a fantastic day, Celtic fans all around the world.
Lit. Roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to the party, roll up to